All right, I'm not sure. Live. Okay. Sometimes it cuts me off at 10 minutes. Okay. I think this is live. If you're on the Facebook page for PA Homeschool Law, can you just leave a comment if you can hear me and see me? Okay, so I see that people are coming in. Come on in. Come on in. Welcome. I think I should be able to see comments. Let me see if okay, so I have a sidebar that I can see comments. I don't know if you'll be able to see comments. Oh, there. Okay, yeah, I can hear and see. Oh, great. Excellent. Thank you, Jody. And hello. I'll wait a few minutes just to give people a chance to join us, and then I'll get started. Hi, Amelia. Nice to see you. And I'm sure I'm going to meet a lot of new people today, so that's good, and I hope you all are well. Hi, Jess. So, and I don't know whether you can see each other's comments, but it's nice that I can. We'll wait a few more minutes. It took me a while. I have done these Facebook Lives, I guess, probably over a year ago when I was a little more active in the Pennsylvania Homeschool support group on Facebook. And the technology has changed a little bit, so I haven't done one for a while. Yeah. Sure. Hi, Shayna. Yeah, I hope you guys are enjoying your summer. Hi, Andrea. I can't tell how many people. Hi, Leslie. Oh, wait, I couldn't find the link. I'm not sure if it's a link to this. Sorry. Leslie, oh, you're saying you just joined us because you couldn't find the link before. And maybe, see, the thing is I think Facebook will, I'm not on Facebook that much, so I don't know how they do this, if they notify people when I'm live. But just to let you know, I think this is recording. Either Facebook records it or this software that I bought a while ago will record it. So I'll definitely post it on the page or leave it posted, however it works, to figure that out. And I'll probably post it to YouTube. I have a YouTube page, or whatever you call that, a YouTube channel. And a neighbor of mine, she said that her daughter is going to be homeschooling her children this semester and doesn't have Facebook, so she should be able to watch it on YouTube, or anybody you can share it. Okay, good. Okay. So I'll wait a couple more minutes. Well, it's almost 10 after. So let's get started. And like I said, this will be recorded. I don't know if it'll kick me off at a certain time, but so I'll just give you a brief introduction of who I am, and sort of let you know why I'm doing this this live event, and just give you some thoughts about what I'm guessing you're struggling with. So my name is Beth Phillips, and I homeschooled my 4 children, who are all adults now, from the kindergarten through 7th or 8th grade, depending on this child. My youngest just graduated from high school this past year, 2020. And I wrote, and just another important thing is that each of my children have had cyber school experience, traditional homeschool experience. My daughters went to a brick and mortar charter school for the arts. It's called Lincoln Park. It's in Midland, PA. They spent One of them spent a year and a half there. The other spent 2 full years there, but the commute was too long, so that didn't last long for either of them. And yeah, and public school. So my youngest probably spent the longest time in public school. He was traditionally homeschooled until 6th grade, and then he wanted to try cyber school. He did that for a year and was at the local public school for junior high and high school. So broad experience that way, and can speak to different models. And so the other thing is, when I started homeschooling, like most everybody, I researched trying to find what I was supposed to do, that sort of thing. And I decided, I had been doing it 3 or 4 years, and decided I think at about 2012, that there was a need for a step-by-step resource, just to show you how to file the paperwork, and what kind of materials you had to keep, and how to follow the law. I'm a lawyer, and I consider myself kind of an expert on homeschool law only because I homeschooled, not because I've ever litigated homeschool issues or had anything to do with legislation. I'm not an activist in that way. I just kind of had to learn about it because I homeschooled. So I think it was 2013, I wrote an ebook called Homeschooling in Pennsylvania. Short little thing. And then I thought, well, all this information is available for free. It's just a matter of navigating to it and sifting through it. So I decided to publish the website, PA Homeschool Law, as a resource, a free resource. And it's still there, although I haven't been active in the homeschool community for a few years. So it has, I had forums available and that sort of thing, and would answer questions or publish articles or posts sort of touching on issues that people were asking me questions about. So, and I've written a few guides. One is for parents who are certified teachers in Pennsylvania and they want to homeschool under the private tutor option. Another guide is how to handle school district requests that maybe are overstepping the law, or just, so, and those are based on questions that I've gotten like over and over and over again. So I've been thinking a lot about parents like you who maybe some of you have always been interested in homeschooling, but I'm guessing many of you would prefer just the kids being able to go back to school and things going back to normal. So I've been thinking a lot about you, and I don't think, even our district hasn't decided finally. I think things change on the fly. They're going to vote. They sent out a survey, and they're going to vote to decide the final model, looking like it's going to be a hybrid situation where it'll be some online, some in person, but not all the kids back. So I'm hearing from parents and the kids in my neighborhood that, they're concerned about it. And so anyway, I feel a lot of compassion for you, especially just wading into homeschooling. You might have thought, oh my gosh, this is so weird. I'm just going to do my online thing, but I've heard from students in my neighborhood that sometimes that wasn't working great. And I also feel for teachers. I have 3 or 4 teachers in my family who had to go online at the end of the year and do their best. They miss their kids. So I feel for them too. So what I want to do is to try to be a resource for your group, because it's a little bit different than parents who have always wanted to homeschool or just were motivated and have like no desire to go back. Your situation is a little bit more unique. So I want to be a resource for you, but I want it to be efficient for me, helpful to you, and because I do other things now. I work part-time for a law firm here in Pittsburgh. I, do some other consulting work, and I also do a lot of things not related to legal work. So, yeah. So what I want to do is kind of get a feel for the type of questions people might have, whether there's enough interest. If it's only like 10 of you who just kind of want to try to decide what to do, I can help you do that, and we can do that in a group setting. And I'm willing to spend time to maybe publish a guide, sort of steer you to some resources that are different, like reference books that would be different than somebody who like wants to adopt a total homeschool philosophy, that sort of thing. If it makes sense. Maybe there's just not that much need for it. So I want to find a way that's efficient and helpful broadly. And even for different situations. So I've been thinking about that and trying to decide how best to do that. And I have a few things in mind. So, yeah, I think that's all. Oh, and I also wanted to let you know, and you may be familiar too with the Pennsylvania Homeschool Support Group on Facebook. It is a private group, but they're very liberal about letting you join, and they have 2 or 3 moderators who are very active. The people who are in that group are very active and helpful. They have a couple of pinned posts that give you kind of the basic overview of what you have to do, some issues that might come up. So that's one resource. Another is Pennsylvania Home Educators Association. It's run by Mary Alice Newborn. She's like a pioneer in Pennsylvania homeschooling. She's an original. Her 5 children are grown, super smart. She's very active legislatively, and so I would look for her page. She's not as active anymore, but she'll post updates. For example, when Governor Wolf signed emergency waivers, she was on top of it and probably helped draft some of them. So anyway, so that's my intention today, is to just let you know that I'm thinking about this and how I can best help. And I also wanted to talk about how homeschooling under the homeschool law can look different than the homeschooling many of you probably experienced in the spring, where the schools went online all of a sudden, and you kind of found yourself, especially if you had younger elementary kids, trying to teach them the lessons and maybe, yeah, I have talked to a few parents around here, and like I said, some students. Um, so I just wanted to give you an idea of how it's different. If you decide that the model that your school is proposing is a problem for you, that it's just not something you're comfortable with for whatever reason, if it didn't work out, I mean, the thing that's different about this is that it's so hard for me to address any single situation because you're in different situations. Like some people can be at home, some people can't be at home. But if I can give you a broad overview of what homeschooling under the PA homeschool law would look like, and it doesn't have to be permanent, you can maybe see if your school district situation works out and decide to file an affidavit and just do it on your own at home. So let me know if that will be helpful to you, just to give you a broad overview of how it can look different than managing the assignments that your kids' teachers are sending home or having them do online, if that's the case. Give me a thumbs up. Okay. All right. So let's say there's going to be online school in some capacity, and part-time in person. Yeah, I can't even fathom how they're going to do that, but what you should know is that if you decide to homeschool under the PA homeschool law, you would file an affidavit, and very general objectives. Those are available. I'll put them up, the ones that I filed every year. They've never changed because I kept them really broad and general. So, and this is going to vary based on your children's age, but it can be, once you do that, your days can look like anything you want them to look like. So you can fulfill the requirements of the Pennsylvania homeschool law by any means. So you can decide for the whole semester we are only reading books, writing a little bit, and doing basic math. You can and you can do math any way you want. It's funny. One of the most common comments I got from parents who found themselves teaching their kids was how they were going to do multiplication the way they learned it, not the new way. So however, I get it, and that's perfectly fine. I mean, I'm not sure their teachers loved it, but the thing that I feel about, if you have the luxury of being home, or you're going to have to be home anyway, the thing that you should know is that homeschooling under the PA homeschool law is very flexible, it's very forgiving, it's very personalized, it can be super rich, you can tailor it to the personality of each of your children and the aptitudes of each of your children. So I'll give you an example, excuse me. Of my 4 children, 2 of them were sort of freestylers and didn't love to have a schedule, and 2 of them really thrived on a schedule, and I'm kind of in between. So just having that awareness, I was able to make sure that the kids who really needed the structure just basically have a list. I would plan ahead what I thought they could do in the day, they had, and I was able to provide that for them. The two that didn't thrive in that environment, I just gave them more leeway. And I would give them like broad goals. Say, oh, read this book by, not even by that, just like, here, what do you want to read, kind of. And if I came across them, even in elementary school, especially in elementary school. So if I had an idea for what 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. looked like, and I was, would go in and say, oh, it's time for your math, and find the more flexible kids doing something really constructive, and totally focused and involved in something that was fueling them, I had to step back. So that's the thing. It's like, you can do that. But let's say I'm a person who's super structured and I need the structure. You can adapt your school or your education program day to day to do it that way. It's just very flexible. So, and I think that's in contrast to just getting through the work that's assigned from your kids' teachers. So wait, there's a question. It says, joined our district's cheer. Oh, this is a good question. I was thinking about this. So my 7-year-old joined our district's cheer team. If I homeschool, is she still allowed to participate as a homeschooler? Yes. So I think it was 2006, Pennsylvania adopted an equal access law to allow homeschooled children to participate in extracurricular activities such as cheerleading. So a district, before then it was up to the district, individual school districts, but the only requirement is that they have to meet the same criteria as enrolled students. So I think, for example, our school district has a grade requirement. If a student, say, fails a test or a quiz, they can't participate in the sport until the next test or quiz, and they bring their grade up, or if they have like overall less than a C minus, they're not eligible. So that would broadly apply the same way. Or if there are tryouts for enrolled students, then homeschooled students would also have to try out. So yeah, that's a good question. I was thinking about that. Now, I also know that my boys played basketball in elementary school for the school team, but it wasn't organized by the district. It was like a booster club. So that really wasn't the same. And that may be the case with the cheer team. It might be separate from like something run by the school board. So yeah, but she should be able to participate. Sure. That's a good question. Yeah, and I really don't have a feel, and maybe you guys do. I don't have a feel for if you, not that it matters, because if you meet the requirements to homeschool, and I'll tell you about those, they're very minimal. In Pennsylvania, it really doesn't matter what your district's opinion of it is. But if I were an administrator and I had parents in my district willing to homeschool their child for a while until things got kind of back to normal, I'd much rather them do that than maybe opt for a cyber charter school, because those tuition for cyber school has to be paid by the school district, the home school district. So, and I'd be kind of glad for fewer kids on buses and in the classroom. So it'll be interesting. Oh, Andrea, you believe, you said, I believe it is. I'm not sure what you're referring to, sorry. Oh, okay. So I'll tell you some of the things, if you think there's interest. It was funny when I posted just a comment last night, and it was like 9:30. I was so surprised by how fast people responded, that they were thinking about homeschooling and sharing it. It is like one of the most active posts I've ever posted on that Facebook page. So, and I believe me, I feel for you. So here's what I have in mind. First of all, I've been thinking that if there is a group, I want to keep it separate than the general homeschool, because like I said, that Pennsylvania homeschool support group is a terrific resource for conventional homeschooling parents, people who have been doing it for a while, they intend to do it for a while. I just think you're in a different category. Even if like you've wanted to try it and just haven't had a reason to, but now you do. Sorry, name's in my face. I would like to keep it separate because I think resources will be different for you. Things that come up will be a little bit different for you. So I was thinking of that. And then some of the other things I was thinking of, like, I don't know if a single guide would be helpful for you, that just in the framework, just some things will be relevant that are similar, just like how to go about filing things and what you have to collect and that sort of thing. That will be similar. So I was thinking of, I could create a guide. I was thinking of creating a separate private Facebook group, totally private, and maybe doing like Zoom calls where it's more interactive. So rather than me trying to catch your questions and read them and repeat them and answer them, just like a Zoom call, something like that. Maybe as often, maybe once a week or something like that. I don't know if you have other ideas. My goal is not, the thing that I don't want and that I really can't sustain is answering questions one-off. Facebook, like a Facebook page in general, is a really terrible forum for that, because the same question will just get buried. So if you have a question that somebody's already asked, it'll just get buried. So that's why I'm thinking of a guide. Okay, so yes, make the Facebook group. The other thing I like about the Facebook group is it's private. And like I said, I don't know if you're getting pushback from family and friends. That's pretty common when you're like me. When I started homeschooling, everybody had a question and they thought I was going to ruin my kids. Not everybody, but it just kind of will allow you to inquire about it without having to defend it. So that's another reason I want to keep it private. Yeah. So, and yeah. So I'm trying to think if I was. Yeah, I mean, I could also do a frequently, instead of answering questions individually, I guess I could do it on the Facebook group, but I don't want to email back and forth. Like, I just don't want to get a ton of emails with one-off questions, because it's so time consuming and it's not efficient. And I like I said, I'm doing other things right now, but I would like to dedicate some time to helping you out and getting you started and seeing kind of what issues are coming up for you. Um, yeah, I like the idea of a private group. Um, yeah, and the other thing too is, so if you go to the PA Homeschool Law website, here's an example of why I think your situation is different. So I have a list of resources. It's like on the menu bar. And a lot of them are just reference books that I read to inform myself about different philosophies, different approaches to homeschooling. And I'm not sure that any of those are relevant. Like, I wouldn't necessarily recommend that to people in your situation because you don't want to really adopt a whole homeschool lifestyle. I mean, some of them could be practical in terms of how you can structure your day or that sort of thing, but what I would refer to you would be really different than what I recommend. Now, there are some subject matter resources that I thought were really good and can work for, say, if you have 3 or 4 kids who are close in age like mine were, you can kill 2 birds with 1 stone. You just, with science, not math, the only thing that was specialized for my kids, who all were, I don't know, I had 4 under 5 when my youngest was a kindergartner. But, we did math separately, but for the first couple of years, of course, my youngers didn't do math because they were toddlers. And English, writing, reading, my kids were on different levels, of course, for that sort of thing, but everything else we did together. Social studies and science even. Yeah, so some of those resources would be relevant to your situation if you have more than 1 kid at home. So anyway, I'll start a private Facebook group, and probably just the one question I might ask for you to get in is what district you're in, and only because I kind of want to get a feel for how districts are doing things differently, if they are doing things differently. I'm in Allegheny County, and we've been in the green zone since June 5th, and I think there are still some counties in PA that are still in yellow. So I would be interested to see how districts are doing it differently. Yeah, so I think I covered everything I wanted to do. I mean, if you have any, it's 12:38. If you have specific questions that you're coming across or have popped up for you generally, like how to do it or how to file this or that, feel free to ask. And I think like a Zoom, I don't know. I guess I could just post a link in a private group would be nice. I'm curious about, say, obviously you guys are interested. July 28th. See, that's the other thing that's so frustrating. How it's getting close. So that's another issue. That's the school district is coming up, or the school year's coming up, and they're taking so long to decide. Yeah, so I'm curious about what your friends in the same district are considering. If they're just are any of them considering homeschooling as an option, and yeah, but we can talk about that in the private Facebook group. Yeah, try to structure it to be generally helpful, like I said. So hopefully that'll help. And feel free to share this. This will be public on the page. And I know I rambled a lot, but I just wanted to kind of get a feel for what people are thinking about. So if you have any questions, I can answer. Oh, let me talk about the time. So an affidavit. So if you're going to file under the Pennsylvania Home Education Law. Oh, Alyssa asked, do I create my own curriculum? Or maybe generally, should you? Or do you go with a company? For math, I liked a product called MathUC, and that was the only consistent company that I ordered materials from. There are like sort of comprehensive, for example, Switched on Schoolhouse is pretty comprehensive and for all subject areas. I just never availed myself of them. One, because they're quite pricey. Then I used other resources for writing, that sort of thing. I work at a university in Northeast PA. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, I know, for example, my school district, I don't know if I think you all can read Darlene's comment. And I understand that schools are really making decisions on the fly. For example, in Pennsylvania, it looks like things were, even though we're in the green zone, things were closing up again. So I feel for them for sure. I don't blame them. And same thing with colleges. My older son he goes to Cleveland State, and he's still waiting to hear what they're going to do in the fall. And he plays tennis. There are two or three kids who are international students, so they may not be able to get back into the country. I'm not sure. Oh, I'm sorry. Eileen can't see any comments. No. Yeah. Sorry. Eileen, do you see your own comment that kind of I'm seeing on my main screen, and then I have a sidebar open for comments. But I guess on the Facebook page that would be underneath. Shoot, I was asking. I forget what I was at. Oh. So then I should be reading these comments out loud. Well, Darlene made a comment that universities are just trying to formulate policies according to guidelines, which change fairly often, and so the school districts are probably doing the same, which I agree with. It is okay. And if you tag, Well, hopefully, I don't know how these Facebook Lives work, so I think it should be posted in the Pennsylvania Homeschool business page, and I'm guessing that your comments will show up under, like once it's published to the page, will show up under the post. I'm thinking that's the way it's going to be. Now, I'm trying to think. I interrupted myself. I forget. So, okay. No, I don't think I was going to say anything else. Yeah, Facebook can be wonky. I'm not on it very much, so that's another thing. But actually, Facebook's been good. I just wanted to talk about, I did have like a membership on my website, and people are just on Facebook more often, and it was more organized, so you could find like topic questions and that sort of thing. But just people, it's like having to log in and that sort of thing. I think Facebook is easier. Yeah, tennis and international students. Yeah, that was not sure whether they can get back into the country. Oh, wait. Oh, it's right there. Oh, I wanted to talk about the time requirement. So if you're going to do file an affidavit, I'm going to leave a link to a PDF for a simple form that includes all the elements that the law requires. So if you have been to your school district's homeschool page, your school district might have a form that's like 3 pages long, an affidavit form. Includes information that you don't need. I don't ever recommend that you use that because it has extra information on there. So for example, one of the requirements is that, I'm trying to think why. One of the requirements is that the supervisor of the home education program is going to ensure that the medical requirements are going to be met. And it's just a sentence on my affidavit form. But the school district includes this checklist, or most of the school district form, I think my own does, includes a checklist of all the things that you're attesting to. And that's not required. I mean, it's so it's just I don't recommend using that. So I'll post that in the Facebook page. And then the one change I did make to the form that I've used, the affidavit form that I've used forever, I got a question from one of the moderators in the Pennsylvania Homeschool Support Group. So one of the things that like I said, that the medical requirements will be met. So that's like a statement on the affidavit form. But since COVID may have prevented you from getting your child from getting to the doctor just because of social distancing, she was concerned that you're attesting that the requirements already were met, but maybe they weren't. So I said, well, I just changed the language to say have or will be met and are on file, and that takes care of that. Now, you may be familiar with when certain exams or immunizations are required for public school. So, for example, like in the junior year, I think a physical is required, and there's no deadline. It just has to be done at some point during the junior year. So I think it's more flexible than people think it is. But yeah, so I'll post a link to, or just the form, I don't know. If I can figure out how to post a PDF on the page, I'll do that. And then, but as far as the time requirement, in Pennsylvania, the school calendar runs from July 1st to June 30th. So July 1st of 2020 to June 30th of 2021. And within that time, you're required to have 180 days of education. What counts as a day is, broad, or if you have an elementary school student, it's 900 hours. So it's 180 days or 900 hours within that time period, July 1st to June 30th of the next year. And if it's a high school or grade 7 through 12, a high school or secondary, it's 990 hours. So you choose 180 days or 990 hours. Since you can start the clock as early as July 1st, a lot of traditional homeschoolers file their affidavit by July 1st. So There's no, otherwise, you can start when your district starts, like just make sure your affidavit is in. If you're going to homeschool, you can do it at any time after now. You can file your affidavit, but please, oh wait, oh yeah, okay. So anyway, if you don't decide until the school district comes out, you haven't lost any time. I mean, technically, you can't count days before you file your affidavit, but 180 days in 365 days is not hard to meet. So Casey Ann made a comment. Okay, please mention religious exemptions when you mention vaccinations, and the form does. So, gosh, I should call up the form, and it says, please include all exemptions when you mention vaccines. So here, let me see if I can, I'll read you the form. I'm not going to share my screen, but let's see if I can find it. I just want to read the language that my form includes. Oh, I can't. I don't think I can get it. Oh, wait. Yeah, here we go. Hold on. I don't know if you can still see me, but here we go. My form states, so if your children are already in the public school system or private school system, and you claim a religious exemption, that they still have to have some indication of that on file. Okay, so it says, here's what my form. The affidavit is evidence that the appropriate medical services have or will be provided and are on file, or a religious or medical or ethical exemption has been claimed. Okay? But it is, if you're claiming a religious or medical exemption, I haven't looked at this for so long, you have to claim it proactively. I haven't looked at it for so long, so I really don't want to speak about that. But yeah, it is included. That language is included, and I think you have to file like a certification. There's an article about that on my website. But yeah, my affidavit does include that language. All right. The affidavit is evidence. So Darlene has a comment, since you guys can't read the comments, or not all of you can see the comments. Let me get back here. Okay, I don't know why I'm seeing myself in this. Darlene has, oh, darn it. Oh, here, I can get it. The affidavit is evidence that the appropriate medical services have been or will be provided in her. Oh yeah, she's just repeating what I just read. Okay, that's good. Okay, or she posted it before I read it. If Kimberly asks the question, if you choose 180 days, it's then up to you to determine what constitutes the day, correct? Yes, that's correct. Yep. And meaning you determine the hours, work, content, and if it's a school day, yes. I will add the caveat to that make sure that your evaluator agrees with you on that. So at the end of the year, an evaluator will do an evaluation, review samples of the student's work, has to interview the student, but it's just like it can be online, it can be by phone, or it can be in person, and it's basically, they don't quiz them, they just have to speak to them, the student. And by samples of work, it's not everything your child did in the whole school year. It's like literally samples of work. I used to include, I don't know, 10 samples. Something from the beginning of the year, something from the end of the year, and I picked a few subjects. But make sure your evaluator, some evaluators, and I don't agree with this, they want like a calendar. That's not required. Checked boxes 1 to 180. I did that for my own purposes. I had a grid. It's like one just numbered blank boxes 1 through 180, and I would just check them off. But that was for my use. If you find an evaluator who requires that or some other sort of notation in a calendar, that's not required by the law. It's just your assessment of what constitutes a school day, and yeah. Added or will be. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, actually, Darlene, you're right. I just went in and changed that language myself today. So if you got the affidavit maybe from the Pennsylvania Homeschool support group, I suggested that anybody who used the template might want to tweak that language. Darlene says, I added in my home because I've heard of school districts that tell supervisors that on file means at the district office. Actually, on file could mean at the district or at the doctor's office. Yeah, so if your doctor keeps the file, which they do, my interpretation of the law is that it's on file at the. I didn't even keep. I mean, I kept a record, I guess, of the visit or the well check. But you're right; it doesn't have to be in the district, and this always leads to issues. This one medical thing. So one of the reasons is that there's a health and safety law. And again, there's an article about this on my website, where school districts are required to keep a record in some form of vaccines, even for home educated students in the district. Now, some parents say it's not, it's very clear in the law. So if the school gets audited and they don't have the minimum required, and it's just a record of immunizations, or they have to have the religious exemption on file or the exemption on file for every student in the district, whether they're home educated or not. So some parents have said, well, home educators can keep them for themselves, but if I, as a home educator, would not want to be subject to an audit by the health department. Sorry. So that's why it's conflicting language that hasn't been and probably won't be resolved by either legislation or litigation. So that's why they kind of dig in with that. Sorry, I'm trying to keep up with the comments. This is fun though. Informed consent PO. Kate says, check out informedconsentpa.org for a template. So you can check that out. Transfer. So Kimberly says that she was concerned about transfer of credits. Does that mean for high school and then high school into college? And yeah, that's could be an issue, but I have never heard of anybody having an issue with that. I'm a homeschool mom and public school nurse. Wow, that's cool. He graduated 2020. So Heather, I'm sorry, I'm reading these like you guys can see them. Okay, so Heather says, I'm a homeschool mom and a public school nurse. Her student graduated in 2020. All that needs filed with the district is a statement saying my child is exempt from vaccinations due to religious, medical, or philosophical reasons. Only choose one reason. You don't have to specify the specific religion or philosophical reason. It is just that it exists. If medical, then medical documentation is required. Yes, thank you, Heather. Yes. I appreciate that input. Sorry, Kimberly. My daughter will be in 8th grade this year when I am going to transition to homeschooling. Can you give me some info about the required testing for 8th grade? Yes. So, actually, there's a Facebook Live about testing. Most people I know do it online. And one of the requirements for testing in 3rd, 5th, and 8th grade, it has to be one of the approved standardized tests. And like I said, the list is on the website. And I haven't looked at it recently. I don't know that if they've added or subtracted. And that a parent, the supervisor or a parent, cannot administer the test. So an older sibling or same age sibling, a neighbor can do it, a grandparent can do it. Some people just like get another homeschool parent to do it. But if you do an online format, the computer is the proctor. So that's one situation where, so you just find a test and you get the appropriate level. And if it's a paper test, somebody else has to administer it. And if it's an online test, the computer can at your leisure or at your student's leisure. Here's one important thing. So especially for 3rd graders and 5th graders, it's maybe less of an issue for 8th graders. But so many parents worry that first of all, it doesn't matter how the child scores. Nothing in the law says they have to score a certain proficiency or anything like that. It just has to be done. So a lot of parents worry that, for example, they'll say, my son isn't a great reader. I'm worried that the test will be too hard and he won't even be able to take it. Valid concern. But you don't have to order the level of test. So you can order a 1st grade test for a 3rd grader. You can order a 9th grade test for an 8th grader. I mean, it just doesn't matter. It's just up to you and whether it's a useful tool to see where your child is. But as far as meeting the legal requirements, you just have to pick one of the tests and find whatever manner you want it to be administered. And they usually cost like, I don't know, $25 or something like that. And then there are some like people who test, like proctor tests online. That's like a little business for them. Darlene says, I'm an evaluator. How can I determine that an appropriate education has occurred? Since the law defines an appropriate education as a program consisting of instruction in the required subjects for the time required in this act and in which the student demonstrates sustained progress in the overall program. Good question. So, since the parent in the affidavit stated, and remember, an affidavit is a sworn statement under oath. Since the parent said that the home education program will comply, I can't do anything other than take their word for it. So here's the other thing. For evaluators who require like some sort of calendar, there's no way to tell whether that is valid. Just none. So and the other thing too is, by the samples that you're taking, you're kind of doing your best to say, did something happen here? So they show you a math page, and what I normally did would, like, I would include a math page from the beginning of the year and a math page from toward the end of the year. I mean, you can see whether sustained progress even in that subject, but say there wasn't any progress in that subject. The standard is sustained project in the overall program. So it's murky, but there's no way you're going to police that. And it's not your job to police that. Like, I feel like you can get a feel for parents, and I just believe that most parents want the best for their kids. So, but that's a good question. It's valid, and you have to do it according to what makes you comfortable, and if you require calendar check marks or that sort of thing, just know that that kind of record, or I guess recording, isn't required by the law. Now the log is required, and they should include a log in the portfolio. A log is simply a list of titles that were used, and there's no certain requirements, there's no minimum requirements for the log. It's just and contemporaneous is vague as well. So, but the portfolio should include a log of titles. So, yeah, but that's a good question. I appreciate that, Darlene. Kimberly asks, my grandson will be in 8th grade and has an IEP. Any advice on testing in this situation? No, I'm not an expert in that. I'm sorry. But you should know that if your student has been identified as having special needs, there is one extra step, that the home education program needs to be approved by either a special education teacher, and again, those requirements before you file the affidavit. Doesn't have to mirror the IEP, but the IEP is usually a good guideline for that. And again, there's an article on my website about that requirement. So, should I ask? Oh, Darlene asks, should I ask to see their affidavit? I don't think you need to, Darlene, because it's going to have that minimum language. Like, mine's about as minimal as and they have to include it or some form of that. If they're coming to you for an evaluation, there's no reason that they would need an evaluation if they didn't file an affidavit. Does that make sense? But again, Darlene, whatever makes you comfortable. If it were me, I don't know how you can tell whether, like, a whole calendar wasn't just created. Like, I've heard people say, evaluators say, well, I could tell they used the same pen, so, and I don't know how you can tell. I mean, an affidavit is actually more evidence than a calendar even. I mean, it is a sworn statement. So that's my opinion. Will children who finish 12th grade be eligible to get a diploma? Do they need to pass the Keystone exams? Both good questions. Home educators, under the PA homeschool law, the parent can issue a diploma. A certain form is published by the Pennsylvania Department of Education, and the 12th grade evaluator signs it. So the parent issues it, the 12th grade evaluator signs it based on, I recommend creating a transcript that just shows the subjects that the subjects requirement between 9 and 12 to meet the basic graduation requirements, that you present that to the 12th grade evaluator, or the supervisor presents that to the 12th grade evaluator. They kind of make sure that the subject requirements were met, and the 12th grade evaluator will sign the diploma. And it's as valid as a high school issued diploma or a private school issued diploma under Pennsylvania law. That law changed, I think, in 2016. Okay, and that also doesn't apply to parents who do the private tutor option. They can't issue a diploma. Do they need to pass the Keystone exams for this? No. No, Keystone exams don't apply to parent-issued diplomas. So, okay. Just checking. Well, it's 1:11, so I've been chatting for about an hour. So what I'm going to do is I'll create a private Facebook group, and just you can request to join, and then I'll probably post some things in there to get a feel for topics that are helpful to maybe do a Zoom call about. If you guys have specific questions about resources, I can help you with that. But again, what I don't want to do is answer one-off emails, because it's just not that efficient. And I'm sorry about that. So since I'm not really wanting to do that, if you feel like you have a lot of individual questions, now I feel like most of your questions will be answered on the website. If you just do a search, there's a search bar on the PA Homeschool Law website. If you have specific questions about certain topics, most of them will be answered by that. I think, yeah, the book is still available. The book's outdated. The ebook is outdated because I haven't updated it to reflect the change in the compulsory education age. It used to be 8 to 17, now it's 6 to 18. And it's because it's a big process. I have to not only review and edit the book, and then I have to reformat it, and so I just haven't done that. Okay, so Andrea says, sorry, I just want to backtrack to the affidavit real quick. No problem. I don't need to use the school's affidavit, right? Right. You do not need to use the school's affidavit. Now, if you use the form that I provide or somewhere else, I mean, there are other resources for very straightforward, short affidavits that include all the elements. The school district might try to tell you that you need to use their form, and they're just not right. That's not accurate. So, yep, you can use a form as long as it includes all the elements. And that I have a video about that on YouTube, on the PA Homeschool Law YouTube channel. It's a little outdated as well because it does refer to the former compulsory age. So it's definitely outdated in that regard, but everything else is explained. Okay, guys, I'm going to sign off. Sure, Andrea, you're welcome. Thanks for showing up. I appreciate it. And like I said, I just want the best for all of you. And I know this is such a hard time for everyone and kind of scary, just not knowing what to expect from any of it. So, yeah, so good luck. You're welcome, Sue. Ooh, let me check out. Somebody has a long question. I don't know if I can. Oh, okay. Oh, Darlene says you can read this later. I will, Darlene. Yeah, thanks for showing up. And actually, Darlene, you could be a really good resource for this group because you can do evaluations online. So when the time comes, if you get to know some people in our group, you can do some evaluations online for them. Okay. All right. I'll get to the Facebook group a little bit later. So just keep an eye out for that. What I'll do is I'll create it, and then I'll post a notice about it on the PA Homeschool Facebook page. All right, everyone. Have a good day. You're welcome, Andrea. All right. I don't even know how to get out of here. Let's see. Finish. No, there it is.